Jacob Cameron put everything the hegemony had into keeping pace with new designs. More Mackies for the interim, but more importantly, better designs and improvements to that which was already proven to work. Many of these design improvements were for the ease of mass manufacture, but this in turn gave ground to multi-mission capable designs, specific mission capable designs, and so on. Jacob Cameron poured so much money into this effort that he sacrificed other programs entirely. It is of note that in the end, so much money was poured into the Mackie and early Mac R&D that the once magnificent hegemony fleet was nearly crippled. The once mighty fleet laid in ordinary as they went one full year without regular maintenance, as all military funding for anything not Mackie related had completely dried up. Director General Jacob Cameron stretched the state finances to the limit, nearly bankrupting the once wealthy hegemony in the process, so he could stay ahead of the game. But this only served to drive the other great houses onward in research and development. In that relentless drive began a contest of governments, industrial concerns, and investments that continues to this very day. The humble Mackie was built right up to the succession.
Hey, welcome all you bandits, mercs, and space cowboys. This is Voices from the Periphery. I'm Bishop. Unfortunately, my co-host Corey is under the weather today, so we're going to have a short stream. We're going to talk about something that I think is pretty interesting that I've been hearing about lately. It's called the Proliferation Cycle. It's been out for quite a while. This is not something that's new to some of you die-hard Battletech fans, but it is something that is new to me. I find it very exciting. I mean, we're talking about a timeline from, let's see, let me pull it up again. We're talking about like the 20, let's see, the first one starts in 2438. So, I mean, we're talking about, everybody here is looking at 3052, 3039. This is a pretty interesting set of stories. I believe they started being released roughly in 2004. So this range has gone from 2004 to the very last one that I see looks like it was released in 2021. What I find most particularly interesting about this, I just got done with the entire Great Death Legion saga, which I really do want to talk about, but I think I'm going to do that on another stream. This talks about everybody starting to get into mechs. This talks about the first mech, the Mackie, the godfather of all mechs. Not by any means the best in any sort of performance standard, but we're talking about the Terran hegemony. I can't say that word. They've been fighting all these wars. They want to keep their hold on the great houses that have spread to the stars, but they don't know what to do. And this is just kind of an interesting story. I'll be honest, there's a lot left out here. There's a lot in between the lines that you can find from the data sheets and all of the little things that have been released lately. But I do want to talk about this series. It's a 7-story series. It's called the Proliferation Cycle. You say it 10 times fast. The Proliferation Cycle. It starts off with the first book from 2004, and it talks about the beginning of the hegemony armed forces trying to decide who's going to be the first person to pilot this mech. I don't want to give too many spoilers, so I'm going to try and keep this at a 30,000 foot level. I've only read the first 3. I'm going to finish all 7, but I felt like this was a really good time to get this going. So we've got this mech being introduced, the Mackie. It's, let's see, the Mackie itself was, not by any means the best thing ever created. But, let's see, I actually had this pulled up and then had some technical difficulties, so I'm playing a little catch up here, bear with me. So, here we go. So the Mackie was an assault class mech, 100 tons. The very first prototype was the Mackie MSK-5S. The actual production model was the MSK-6S, but for the purposes of this story, we're talking about the original MSK-5S in the first book, which is entitled Breakaway. Breakaway talks about how the Terran hegemony is doing experiments on the neural helmets. They're trying to figure out how can we get these humans technologically to be able to pilot these massive machines that we're creating. How can we get a human being to be able to balance this two-legged bipedal machine? And to do that, they were inventing the neural helmets. They were testing them on, I want to say chimpanzees, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if the summary tells me a little bit. Now, this is something that some of you hardcores, this is not going to be new to some of you, but some of you, this is going to be new to. So they're doing testing on apes. I want to say chimpanzees, but I just don't remember right off the top of my head. One of the first things that they found out is that the chimpanzee that was tested on the neural helmet appears to have become aggressive. Again, I'm not going to go into too many spoilers if I can help it, but so he appears to have become aggressive. The doctor doing the testing talks to her superiors, and they said, "Oh, you mean the way that they made so-and-so into an excellent warrior? Well, we're very happy with that. We're gonna let that slide." And that kind of leads back into the rest of the story that they're telling in this, is that they've got four or five candidates out on SEER training, which is survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. SEER training is not so much different from what you see in the Navy SEALs, in the Armed Force, in Special Forces, really in the Armed Forces, but heavily in the Special Forces. They do a lot of SEER training. Again, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. It's can you exist if you're separated from your squad? Can you evade enemy capture? Can you resist against a foreign enemy? And can you escape, again, capture or enemy territory? These kinds of things are for folks who are going to be behind enemy lines. They're definitely be on the ground. There's definitely going to be some sort of action over there. So what we come down to, and I know that there's other people that talk about this. Again, this is not new information. But it does tell a little bit of the story behind our first pilot of the Mackie. This would be Charles Kincaid. Charles Kincaid is going through this training. They discuss a little bit the scores, who's where. Now, a little bit of background. Kincaid's family is heavily invested in the Mackie. His whole family is politically invested. They're a very rich family at the time. Politicians, etc., etc. So a lot of people think, oh, well, he should do it anyway. Well, it turns out he's going through the trials, and he really is one of the top candidates. He ends up doing very well through all of the different tests. And in this last SEER survival training, where the idea is everybody, all of the candidates have to reach a radio. When they reach that radio, which is up in the mountains of Wyoming, whoever reaches it first is pretty much what everybody believes is going to be the person that's going to be chosen to pilot the Mackie. They get a little bit of a wrench thrown into their plans as the Capellans infiltrate the test. Unfortunately, they do take out some of the trainees, and his idea was that he was going to take Kincaid's place and ultimately steal the mech during the trial. This was thwarted. I'm not going to go into all the details. Again, I don't want to give too many spoilers here. It was a very interesting read. If you enjoy the novels, if you enjoy the background stories, I do heavily suggest that you look into this 7 novella. They are novellas. They're like 100 to 200 pages. They're very short, but look into them. They're very fun, good, quick reads. Gives you a little bit of insight into what some of the great families are doing at the time. So right now we have the Terran hegemony. We have the Capellans are in the first story. The Capellans are trying to steal the technology. The Terrans are developing it. Next, we come up with the second book in the series is called Prometheus Unbound. This one was released 2005. This is the story of how the Lyran Commonwealth comes to obtain the mech technology. This one, again, I have read this one. I will also, again, try to avoid any major spoilers, but Again, it's a fun read. All of these are. These are all fun, quick, easy reads. They're not, I mean, it gets $2 on Amazon Books. I don't know what they cost from Catalyst, but I bet Catalyst has them too. So the Lyran Commonwealth has been trying to get the Mackie technology at this point for 15 years. So we jump up to 2455. Again, these are very early timelines for most of us. A lot of amateur players aren't even familiar with any activity in this time frame. This is, most people are talking about your 3060s, about your 3052s, about your clan invasions, your succession wars, yada yada yada. But that's why I like these. These are a little bit of a fresh look into where the Battletech universe was when they first started creating the mechs. So here we are in the second book in the cycle, the second big house that we know of at the time that is able to obtain the mech data. This guy, Kirkpatrick, and there was a Simon something, Kelso, I believe. They basically create a fake crash. They have all these guys that are coming in that are supposed to be miners and laborers, and they've created a very interesting idea. Is we're going to have these guys fake crash. Our operations team's going to get out. They're going to go out and try and steal the stuff. It's an interesting way they go about it. There's definitely some spoilers I want to give. I'm not going to do it. But essentially, this is the story of how the Lyran Commonwealth does end up coming into the contact with the data of the Mackie, not an actual Mackie itself, although they do have a very close encounter with the machine. But ultimately they get the plans, they steal the plans, they escape with the plans. The third story, again, this is the last one I've actually read. I will go through some information on all of these, but this was a very different story. This one was not as much about action. There wasn't, an interaction with the fabled Mackie, but it was the attempt at the Federated Suns to obtain information from their, at the time, allies, the Lyran Commonwealth. So they have their two negotiators who are sitting down, and the Lyran Commonwealth doesn't want the Federated Suns to know they actually have this thing. The Federated Suns actually know they have this information. It's a fun cat and mouse tale. You're talking about intrigue and deception and James Bond stuff, really. It comes down to, they find some dirt on this guy, they capture this person, but the third book does end with the Federated Suns are able to garner the information from the Mackie, from the Lyran Commonwealth, and, the two groups are going to now financially join together with the Federated Suns are going to fund the Lyran Commonwealth's research. They're going to fund the Lyran Commonwealth's ability to create new ideas, new Mackies, new designs, new loadouts, new variants. At the same time, they are going to demand the immediate ability to access and produce the Mackie that now the Terran hegemony has had for 15 years that nobody else has really been using. So this is a huge game changer. A little bit of an aside is the Charles Kincaid, the first pilot of the Mackie. He went up against several tanks that at the time of the test back in 2038, 2039, somewhere around there, he was going up against these tanks that everybody thought, oh, they're going to tear him apart. They're just going to destroy him. He's not going to have anywhere to go. 4 tanks against this one mech. Each of these rounds is going to shred right through his armor, destroy him, take him apart piece by piece. What they found, though, and Tex will tell you a little bit more about this one. I got to give Tex a little bit of props here. Some of this information I got directly from the Black Pants Legion, Tex Talks, etc. They're talking about how the rounds from this test, the tanks are basically bouncing off or stopping dead on the armor of this mech, and they're going, holy cow, we really thought they were going to be decimated, that this mech was not going to stand up. And it is the first recorded instance, because it was the first instance of a mech being piloted, of a mech warrior doing some grandstanding. Apparently he destroys 3 of the tanks, comes up to the 4th, says, I'm not going to use my weapons, I'm just going to step on you, slams him down. Anyways, so we're back to the 3rd book, Nothing Ventured. Again, the Federated Sons are blackmailing the Lyran Commonwealth for the mech data. So now we're going to reach into a little bit of unknown territory for me. I'm still going to read these. So again, I'm not going to try and give too many spoilers here. But we now are looking at, 2457 through 2460 is kind of where this story is taking place. This story is a little bit more about how the Draconis Combine finally gets into the mech game. Again, we're talking about, 2300s versus the 2400s. We're getting really late in the game for some of these guys to have this data. These guys talk about, this guy, Takeda Tetsuo. I'm probably saying that wrong, but Takeda Tetsuo graduates from the Sun Tzu School of Combat. Him and his brothers, they meet, and they're all competing. They all want to be the best, but let's see, performs remarkably well, blah 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 blah. A raid on Lyran called Mech Periphery. Okay, so this is more about how the Draconis Combine, it looks like, steals some information from the Lyran Commonwealth and to get their mechs. So they've decided the Lyran Commonwealth has it. Everybody's kind of leaving Terran hegemony alone, apparently, and they take over, knock it out, get their mech. Again, I'm really trying to stay away from spoilers, so please bear with me on the limited details. I'm trying to decide how to give this information without blowing the whole story and make it not interesting to read. But the 5th book, the 5th book in the story is Dish Best Served Cold. This one takes place between 2459 and 2469. Again, we're talking like 100 years past when this thing has been developed, and not every great house even has a battle mech yet. This is considered the Star League era or the Age of War. All the great houses are fighting for control. There's a lot going on right now. So in this story, we're talking about how Free Worlds League dies in combat, defended by Lyran Commonwealth. But ultimately, this is how the Free Worlds League obtain the mech info. So I'll move on. The 6th book in the story is The Spider Dances. This one, you know what? I'm going to pull that up just because I want to see the time frame on this one. 2466. So really, it's sad. The Capellans were the first ones on the scene, the first ones to get oh so close to getting this mech technology. They're almost the last ones to get it. It's 2466. They're finally able to, let's see. No, there's not a lot of details on Sarn on this one, I'm going to be honest with you. But it does narrate how the Capellan Confederation first obtained battle mech technology. I guess it was released with a technical readout of Dragonfire for the Dragonfire Aerospace Fighter. Machine Nation submitted, reportedly fell through, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so 6 years later, released as the Spider Dances. That's fine. So let me see if I can't see. It was anyway. So that's how the Capellans in 2466, again, well over 100 years after the Mackies created, the Capellans finally jump in and get in the game. It's just a fun little excerpt as to see. And the last one here, the Trickster. The Trickster, again, not a lot of information given here. I have not read it yet, but I will. This one was released in 2021. It cycles through the 2854 to 2863. This is a little bit interesting because they're already talking about clans in the 2800s. They're talking about how Clan Jade Falcon won the Omnimech technology from Clan Coyote. And this is obviously a little bit higher end. We're talking about after, Nicholas Kerensky has abandoned the inner sphere, he's gone off, and the clans have been formed. I'm very excited to read this one. I haven't gotten there yet. I will, and I'll give you all a full review of all of these later. But again, with my cohort Corey being under the weather, I just wanted to produce a little bit of content today, talk a little bit about something that excites me. And today, that's the proliferation cycle. For me, it's a lot of fun to see where these wild antics that we're seeing in the 3000s is coming from. And it's coming from all of this. Everybody's trying to get new technology. There's a lot going into it with starships and warships that I'm still learning about a lot of that right now. I mean, I've heard the text talks, but I've not done the research into the warship era myself so hard. The Ares Convention ultimately convening because of that. But this is something that I'm really excited to be reading about. Again, I'm only on book 4 myself. So of the 7, I'm about halfway through. I plan on continuing to read these and get a little bit more of an insight into how each of these great houses are getting into the fight. I have read the entire Great Death Legion series. I've run the entire Kerensky trilogy. Or I'm sorry, the Natasha Kerensky trilogy. But I'm going to start focusing on reading a lot more about the Wolf's Dragoons. I want to find out all I can about them. We'll do some episodes with some of that information. I do apologize for having such a short stream today. Again, I just don't want to go into any of the things that we are going to talk about on our stream this week so we don't ruin it for next week. But I did want to bring some fun, informative information out there. I know that's informative information. Who knows? I'm a great speaker when I'm on my own. But, guys, please follow. Please comment. Let us know the kinds of things you want to hear about, the kinds of things that would interest you. I'm going to bring information to these subjects that maybe you haven't heard before. It doesn't have to be Battletech related. I personally am a huge Battletech fan. So is my cohort Corey. But we talk about other topics. I know Warhammer's out there. I'm really trying to stay away from that topic, but I'll talk about it if something relevant really comes up. But hey guys, again, this was always going to be a short stream today. I really wish I could stretch it out a little bit longer, but I don't want to make this boring for you. So I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. I'm going to say thank you for stopping in. And again, please please follow, please subscribe, whatever it takes. We really want to grow this page and get to the point where we can really be producing some high quality content for you guys. But feedback, following, all of those things are huge for us. But in the meantime, see you, Space Cowboy.